All right. So this is Mr. Valenti, right? And I'm here to interview him and ask him some questions based upon the color purple. And so, like, my first question to you is, like, what do you think about racism, like, in general? Just
I think it exists, but I think it's the stupidest thing that ever existed. I've been around a lot of different races. I was in the Navy for 20 years, so I've intermixed with a bunch of different races, and everybody has something to give. So there's no to stop somebody from giving it just because of their race is stupid.
okay. Do you think we could come to a world where this could stop?
Wow, where it could stop. I think what would have to happen is we'd have to open our minds to everybody being able to think. I mean, I tell my kids in school that the people they learn about in science and the people they learn about in math, they weren't Americans. Mm-hmm. They were from Europe,
Yeah.
and so they were just as smart as everybody else. So I think, and you know, I defended this country for 20 years, but I think sometimes we come up with an attitude that if you're not a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, you can't think. And I find that to be an ignorant type of thing. So I think we have to open our minds to everybody being able to think.
Okay, and then my next question for you is, what do you think about sexism? So, like, do you think women are to be in the kitchen and that's their role, or do you think it's okay for them to have a job like everybody else? Do you think they should have the exact same opportunities as everybody else?
If they can do the job, they deserve the job. I have no problem. I've worked for women, and they're just as capable. In fact, some of them were more capable than some of the men I worked for in the same positions. So I believe that there should be equal pay for equal work, but I'm also from the male chauvinistic upbringing to where I also think we need to open a door for women and we need to pull out a chair and push in a chair. So, yes, they can do the job, but I also think they need to be treated with respect.
Yes. And so, what about domestic violence for you? Is this like something that you've experienced, or?
You know, it's not anything I've experienced, but I've come in contact with people who have, and hitting never solved anything. The only thing that happens is you're bruised when it's over, and domestic violence in the physical form, there's no reason to hit on anybody. Verbally, I have seen it happen, and not to a great extent, but it happened to me a little bit as growing up. It totally demoralizes. It takes a lot to get people functional again, and it's not worth the time. I mean, if that's what it takes to get your point across, then you need to find another way to get your point across.
Okay, and my next question for you is, like, what about rape? Do you think people who have experienced this or gone through this, do you think they'll be traumatized? Do you think they could ever forgive the person that did this to them, or do you think what do you think?
Oh, as far as I know, they'll be traumatized.
Yeah.
I know it takes a major toll on people. As far as forgiveness, that would depend on what's inside, on what they believe in, and who they pray to. As far as forgiveness, I don't know as the scars will ever go away. Forgiving and forgetting are two different things. Forgiveness might happen. Forgetting would never happen. And then the other thing is, there again, I grew up in the era where you treat women with respect, and so that would never, rape never crosses my mind. Just for forcing myself on someone just is rude.
Yes. And what about traditions? Do you think traditions should be, like, do you think you should pass on the generation to other people, or because like I mean, so like I'll give you an example. Like in the book, there's like extreme traditions they do where, like in Africa, they'll scar themselves and just to identify themselves. I mean, do you think there's like a limit to where you need to stop these traditions, or do you think if like however you like to live, or
You know, I believe in diversity, and in fact, we're reading a book right now in seventh grade that talks about tribal scarring, so that you can identify what tribe you're from. That to me, that kind of a tradition doesn't affect me, because if I don't understand it and I want to learn about it, I ask about it, and that brings more diversity. That gives me a better understanding of what's going on. For me to set a societal norm, saying, "Oh, that's wrong to do that," I don't know as I can do that. If it's what they believe in, that's fine, and if I can accept them for who they are, and have them bring in more information into my life, and give me an understanding of what else is going on, I'm all for it.
all right, well think what about the class? Do you think there are people that are superior than other people based on how rich they are, or do you think everyone is equal, no one is above the law?
I believe in equality. I believe that anybody can learn anything, and anybody can do anything if they put their mind to it. The thing is the motivation. A class system doesn't work for me, and I know we live in one. Even in the United States, we live in one.
Yes.
But you look at some of the decisions some of the people that are supposed upper class are making. I get better decisions for my 7th and 8th graders than some of them are making. So that kind of class stuff doesn't work for me. And if I'm middle class, I've got just as much, if not more, education than some of the other people. I just choose to do what I want to do, so I don't like class. I don't like people who think they're better than you because of where they live or how much money they have. And when you turn that off, I'll tell you a story.
All right. All right. Thank you very much. Well, that's it. And